I'm going to give you an example of a process that we went through. A big customer, it's a big car manufacturer, and what they initially considered when they were looking into a solution that connect cloud-based application with their existing in-house system, and how mobile comes into this picture as well. We should have a QA in the end, so if you bear with me, and I'll give you a chance to ask some questions. This customer, what they initially started talking about was this scenario. They were looking for a completely cloud-based solution to integrate their CRM with their SAP. So that was their initial requirement. We only want cloud-based, everything needs to run on the cloud, and that's it. No consideration of anything to install on our network. Because they were talking about SAP, they wanted something that would be certified by SAP and also certified by Salesforce, which was their cloud CRM. And the normal things that any customer you probably would consider as well, which is fast implementation, low complexity, and relatively within their budget cost. Then when they looked around, they noticed something that they will have to consider. The first thing is that SAP was sitting somewhere in their network behind very tight security and completely isolated. So how they are going to connect that cloud-based into their SAP? Well, one of the solutions will be to create or to expose SAP into that cloud-based service. To do that, they would need to create some sort of installation, local installation, or some sort of wrapping of services that securely would go to SAP, get their information they need to update or extract, and then expose that to the cloud CRM or the cloud integration to pick it up. And this was a no-go for them. They said, no, that will require a lot of investment or a lot of IT involvement, and how do we make that securely enough? So they noticed that they would have to install something on their network anyway. They will have to go do some installation, local installation, and then expose that as a service to the cloud and integrate with the CRM. They established that they would need to measure this in practice. So they said, okay, let's imagine this scenario, and let's invite some vendors and give them 5 days to implement this and see who can do it in 5 days and how far they can do it in 5 days. So this is the situation. SAP or a legacy system, a cloud system coming in, and you need to make them talk and understand each other and keep the information in sync. So what do you do? The idea here is a mixed scenario, a mixed or proposed solution where you will integrate and split some of the work in the cloud, some of the work locally, and then make that work. In the end, in our case, obviously I'm going to use this example because it was very successful for ourselves. We did that demonstration in 3 days, and they were quite happy with the solution proposed. I'm going to explore that solution a little bit, but the next stage is some of that information, some of the interaction now. Imagine I have whatever SAP is managing the production and the CRM, talking to the customers and their branches. But they want also to move into, expose some of that into BlackBerries and have some sort of interaction on a mobile application that, again, bring the same idea. I have some BlackBerries. I need to make that integrate and interact with SAP, with Salesforce, in a way that makes sense to my customer, to their users. How do I mash that up? So if you imagine in your case, do you have legacy applications? Do you have SAP? Do you have JDE? Do you have your own bespoke systems? How are you planning to integrate that when you bring cloud? And when anyone at the company, at many levels, bring their own tablets and say, okay, we want some information, we want to interact with our application through those devices. Okay, you all have that scenario in mind? Yes, good. So this is part of kind of a dilemma. If you have a legacy system and you look forward and you see, okay, how do I now move to the cloud? I'm assuming here you are completely sold on the cloud, and you might have one of those systems. I'll just put some examples there, SAP, JDE, being very, very common. And those systems normally are sitting in some sort of hardware or specific platforms or operating systems that you're not too sure, because you might have one type of systems today, but what's the cloud bringing in terms of complexity for you? Hopefully, we'll hide that behind the cloud solution. The first idea is that you remove your legacy system, buy a new system, completely, let's say, cloud-based, move everything in there, and happily carry on. Obviously, that implies quite a lot of risk, probably a huge cost in doing that straight movement. Replace one system into another. The other idea is that you bring a new application or system that will complement what the business is demanding at the moment. So for that case I just mentioned, the motivation was SAP was great. It functions. It has all the investment on it. But there are some parts of it that needed to be developed. The business need new complementary systems on the financial side and the CRM side. So how do we simply extend the life of that investment in a legacy system, could be any of those, and make use of the cloud? So it's the hybrid solution. It's connect those systems, include whatever new system you have, cloud-based, and then make them work nicely together. The other part of this scenario that normally is very common is that you're not only talking about big applications. You might have also small applications or back office applications or reporting or small spreadsheets that the users are using that you like to make them play nicely together in this scenario. And just to add one more complexity, we talking mobile. Yes, everyone's talking mobile. This has been the biggest push lately, and we need to enable some interaction on those devices. If you imagine this situation, you have all these applications, you have all these databases, you have all these platforms, you need the mobile, and you bring in cloud into the picture. How do you access all those application platforms technology? What does that mean for your IT department? When you bring another application, when you bring another platform, how do you make them play together? Imagine on your situation today, someone or your CIO or your board asks you to enable an interaction through their tablets. They love iPads, I don't know. Yes? How many layers that implies for you to attend that business? Or your warehouse is completely new in terms of availability of connection, and you like to replace old scanners or mobile devices with, I don't know, iPods or iPhones. How do you make that happen? What does it imply in terms of cost, complexity, and technology for you? So what we've done is create, during all our life is, in terms of the company and the technology, is specialized in specific technologies for multiple platforms, multiple database, multiple applications. So we created connectors for various applications that are specialized on those applications, or for various technologies or platforms or database. So if you think of one connector as a mini program, something that will connect to an underlying technology and expose data, expose events, expose business rules. If you could magically, let's say, point those connectors to any technology, in this case, let's say SAP. I point to SAP, I see all the data that SAP understands, all the rules that SAP requires. If I point to Salesforce, I see the same thing, without considering where is it running, which database is sitting, which layer of network it's implied, if it's on-premise or on the cloud, it doesn't matter. What I want to do is point to an application, see what data is in it, and from the business point of view, how do I make use of that data? How do I make use of that rule and then make it talk to another application? So one connector, another connector. Now I have a source and a destination, or multiple sources and multiple destinations. And what I would want to see is, independent of what is sitting behind, what is the data that I can then make them talk, make them keep in sync. So this is what we are proposing and offering in terms of any application, technology, etc. So we do that wrapping, we do that encapsulation, and that allows your IT, your programmers to quickly connect any application or technology and generate result very, very quickly without programming. In this example, we have SAP and Salesforce. To get data from one side to another, I simply click here and drop it there, or vice versa. And that's create the connection. That's the program, that will execute. By dropping those components in a certain specific order, I can define a business rule, when that should happen, and after, let's say, getting data from a database and send it to Salesforce, if I want to send an email, I can drop an email component and send that email. If I want to generate a file, update another database, I can drop that component and then generate it as well. If you look at each of those steps, these you could consider a bit technically like a service. So if at any point any of those services have a problem, crashed, not available, the tool will automatically recover and start reprocessing that from that point or up to that point, just like a normal transaction. And you can, once you create that nice design, visually map it, you can put that to run in multiple platforms. So it doesn't matter if it's going to run on Windows or Linux or AS400, it's the same source that will run on all those platforms without any changes. And supporting a multitude of databases. So if you later on has a new database coming in or a cloud-based information that you want to connect again and then remap it, you simply use the appropriate connector and you see the data again and then manipulate that and map those. Just as my customer in that example required, we are certified for all those partners and those products.